Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good. Get the recording for the archives. It's good. Yeah, so basically I've got an imaginary friend, Barber. You know, I guess he's sort of like an uncle. Yeah, like sort of like an uncle figure. The this is it's been changing a lot though for me, because the biggest change for me is there's been a big shift from sort of Barber as the sort of like the disciplinarian, you know, as wagging the finger and telling me, you know, being sort of like quite sort of like disciplinarian and quite like strict, to the Barber as the sort of soft, gentle, forgiving Barber. That's sort of be coming up because yeah, just changing basically father figure archetype dynamics, you know, like I grew up with a very strict and controlling father, and so at first it was most natural to sort of project that onto Barber. But you know, God, like the other day I read about how he forgave the killer thief Satyaman, you know, he was this robber that would go around killing people, you know, and I was reading Barber was like, oh yeah, Barber forgave that guy. And I'm like, whoa, if Barber can forgive a real killer, you know, maybe Barber wouldn't be as strict as I'm having him in my head. You know, I'm like, wow. So yeah, it is yeah, it's I'm not quite on to that level where I have a clear intuition where Barber can tell me the lottery numbers and they're accurate. I'm still on the level where I'm thinking, oh, Barber wants this for me, Barber wants that for me, and I'm still refining it a lot. And but it's a strong magnetism. I'm trying to build that habit of thinking about Barber a lot. Okay, that's my introduction. And when you folks stop raising your hands, then I'll keep on going and continue my monologuing.
Josh, can I ask you a question though?
Please, I love questions.
Okay, so what age do you typically think of Baba as? Like, do you see Baba more as young Baba? Or
this is so fascinating. So it's almost like there are lots of Barbers inside of me. You know, like I've got maybe like about 5 or 6 Barbers at the different ages. I like, my favorite Barber is old Barber, because he's so sweet and grandmotherly. You know, it's like a little grandmother. I do like young Barber because he's very handsome, and you know, get some
Baba
blushing going on.
So beautiful. He was so
yeah. And so yeah, so there's sexy Barber, but also he's got a lot of energy. He's got like a lot of like I want to say like new lifey, you know, like Manzilla meme, you know, very strong energy. So sometimes I'm not in the mood for that. I'm like, whoa, that's a bit too intense for me. I want to go to grandmother, old Barber, you know, who's just so soft and gentle. And then in the middle, there's sort of, you know, where he starts getting a bit chubby, you know, but he's got the mustache, you know, he's sort of, I guess, yeah, like practical father figure Barber. Yeah. And also something I've been interested in, again, this probably shows Catholic past lives, maybe, but I've been into imagining baby Barber, you know, like I guess how like there's these great Renaissance paintings of like the baby Jesus, like with all this shining light coming out. Like it's a really interesting image to think of, you know, it's like baby Barber, this like pure sort of ultimate child self, you know. I found that to be a very interesting archetype that I'm wanting to do art around that and things like that at times. But yeah, I want to hear everyone else's answers too, and what they think about Barbers of different ages.
You know what's really funny is in Prague, Oklahoma, where Baba had his accident. So it's like it was a Czech kind of colony, and in Prague, in the Czech Republic, they have this. They worship the child of baby Jesus, and so there's a church there that they like. It's this Mecca that actually people come for pilgrimage to worship the child of baby Jesus or something. So it's like this little statue of a child that people actually come to Prague for, to like, you know, pay homage to. So maybe you were in Prague, Oklahoma last life.
Definitely possible. You know, there's such funny. I highly suggest everyone Google the Child of Prague, and it's
Oh, is
like this
that, yeah,
wedding.
yeah.
Well, no, like that's a famous painting image where it's almost like this toddler in full royal outfits. It just looks so ridiculous.
Yeah,
That
but
it just
that's so
yeah.
Prague in the Czech Republic is, named after, or Prague, Oklahoma is named after Prague in the Czech Republic. And so they worship that same child there in Prague, Oklahoma. But interesting.
It's fascinating.
All right, we have Gail.
Okay, J Baba. Baba is all the time doing stuff for me and in my life. I said, gosh, a few years ago that I'm seeing so much more of it. I mean, because I used to see 0.03% of what he's doing, and now I'm seeing 0.04%. So he does so many things that we don't give any attention to. But the latest one is I am a caregiver a couple of days a week, couple of 12-hour shifts for a 92-year-old former neighbor of mine. And I usually work Saturday and Sunday, so I was disappointed that I couldn't see Ward Parks when he's coming up to the Chapel Hill group. And one of my colleagues called me today and said, can you do me this major favor? Can you let me work your Saturday and Sunday that Ward's going to be here? And I said, sure. So anyway, just all the time, Baba surprises me. I found a wonderful apartment that I'm finally staying in. I had to wait 6 weeks for it, but I'm finally in it. And it's in a just wooded area and a nice street that's got a lot of horse farms on it. And as I was turning in, I talked to Betty for a second, and tonight, and I saw 3 big deer in the field in front of our house. So anyway, those are 2 things that just came to mind. And then I have my wonderful dog Kippy, named after Elizabeth Kippy. So I could go on and on, but I'll let people share. And I feel so loved and cared about by Baba. Very, very. I call it when he winks at me, and I know that they've had those God wink movies and stuff, but I was saying it before all of that. It's just, there are things that he'll just catch my attention, whether it's a song on the radio or as they say, God speaks your language. Well, Baba sure speaks each of our languages, and he'll get our attention. J Baba.
Gail, can I ask you the same question? When you think about Baba, what age is he normally?
He is in his 40s, I think. He is roughly, I don't have my favorite picture right here of Baba right now, but he is roughly that age. With can y'all see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the dog, he's roughly that age. I always picture him older than like 35 or 36, which is what we think Jesus was. I'm always drawn to the older pictures because I'm still a real big Jesus fan and was totally devoted to Jesus before I came to Baba in 2006. But my favorite picture of I have a favorite photograph, and then my favorite painting of Baba is in Gil and Chitra Alvarado's family room, and it was by Lynn Ott. And people always know there's so many pictures, and you orient yourself after the meeting to whatever picture you want to say the beloved God prayer to be. And everybody knows that I orient above the mantle to the Lynn Ott painting. So definitely older.
Thanks, Gail. Appreciate it. All right, am I gonna have to call on you people one by one? Is that how we're gonna do this tonight? I don't mind getting tough. I'll just go down the line. Oh, Rich felt bad for me. That's why he put his hand up. All right, go for it, Rich. You're muted.
Thank you. Yes, I wasn't quite ready, but I do have a thought in mind for the first part of the story. Yeah, Baba's really current in my life for a few years now. And I think he's been more prevalent since I quit working so much, because I worked at a pretty hard job. So my body was involved, and my body consciousness was always involved in doing all that. But I knew he was always behind the scenes. But on Monday, I was going to the postal box on the corner. We have those here to get my mail. And I passed by the yard of someone. It's kind of a dilapidated house on my block. Most of them are not now, but there's a chain link fence, and there used to be 2 dogs here, and the bigger one died some time ago. And the 2 people that lived there were a couple named Larry and Dorothy. And Dorothy died a couple of years ago, and I used to talk to her once in a while. But so the big dog died. So I was walking by, and the little dog, a little red heeler, beautiful coat of fur, very friendly, really friendly girl. She was out in the doorstep. And so I walked down, I noticed her, said hello, and I walked down to the postal box, and I was returning, and she had come out of the doorway and was descending on a small little ramp because her owner is in a electric wheelchair to get around town. Well, anyway, and I noticed that blood was coming from her rear end. It was pretty serious, because I've seen this before in a dog that I helped, had to get euthanized. So I thought I better get a hold of Larry and see what's really going on, because I since I've had dogs, I've become more attached to my dogs than probably any people I've really met. That's probably a fault, not a strength. But anyway, so the story goes like this. So I finally got a hold of Larry, and it was 4th of July. Everybody was closed. But that Monday, I called the local vet that I go to and asked about euthanization. So I got a hold of Larry, went over there yesterday, and they didn't have room for an appointment. But he said, yes, he didn't think that she'd been eating anything for about 2 weeks. And so, this happens in older dogs. I think he said she was 13 or a little over. And she was, cheerful and just laid back and conscious, very conscious, and not screaming or not, showing a lot of pain. But Larry's not very capable, I don't think, of really taking care of her. So I was really concerned. So I made a deal with Larry that I'd take her and get her euthanized. So we made all the appointments and everything. And I went over today with the dog and spent some time with her. And all I could do was cry. That's all I could do, sitting there knowing it, and what it brought up in me, I think, besides caring for this dog and having feelings for this dog, and the 2 women and 3 women that did it were just so wonderful and compassionate. But so I dug a hole, put it in my backyard, and she's number 6 back there. But anyway, but what it really brought up for me is I could see in my feelings towards this dog did not want to lose living. She dogs love life. Young dogs, they just revel in being alive, bark and run and hop, and they look at you like, wow, I'm here. Oh my God, this is really cool. And so, you could still see this in her, that she didn't want to leave life. But I know from about 2 weeks earlier, I was walking down the alley looking at a new little building, and she came to the backyard, and I never met her there or anything. And she clearly knew I was there. And it was like she was looking through the fence. I think she was sort of tagging me for some help, some awareness. So I think what happened here is Baba, out of, how Baba does this, out of what? Nowhere. All of a sudden, Baba makes me very clearly aware of a situation that I'm prepared to deal with. But Larry couldn't do anything with her. He's in a wheelchair, he doesn't have a car, doesn't have any money. And so that was the end of that. But that longing for life, you know. I imagine that when we're dying, that's probably what holds on. We don't want to leave this world. There's a woman named Lucinda Williams. She had an album where she covered a song that was written by a guy that I think his brother committed suicide or something. It's a magnificent song. And it really puts you in this feeling of loving life, loving just being alive. But on the other hand, we know that Baba is trying every moment to get us just to remember him, because life is the passing show, you know, up and down all the time. And the end result is we have to move on somehow. So other than that, my favorite age of Baba, the first photo that really just jilted my consciousness really was when Baba, just after, I don't really know the exact date on it, but it was just after Baba, he at the tree with his foot in the water and the white, and he's looking like, man, I am so stoned, I didn't realize I was God till now. It's like, bam. And in his eyes, you can just see in his eyes this like God realization. I mean, you know, every one of you know what that is. And that was my favorite. And then it slowly, as I got a little older, now it's probably like, 36, 40, that whole area in there where he took on the women and the Western women, especially, all that stuff. So that's my story. Gracias.
And you're sticking to it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rich. That's a sweet story. I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I do like that time of Baba's life too. Is there a reason that you relate to that time in Baba's life? Like, do you like the stories or?
I think I don't want to get old. I've never wanted to get old. I've never liked age of any kind in anybody or anything, except maybe trees. And so I'm not really enjoying being old now, although I'm much more at peace with how far I've come, or Baba has dragged me, and so I guess I've gone as far as I can. But I really love just imagine the level of cosmic energy that Baba was aware of, in those early Mandali, those men at Manzilamim. It's hard to imagine the power of what his job was, what he was trying to do, and getting all those guys in shape to march off into creation and do all the must work and whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also, I mean, I love young Baba, and I love young Baba because, like Josh, I think, if you are naturally attracted to men, Baba's so beautiful. And I'm in love with young Baba. Like, I wish young Baba was a real person so I could date him because he's so gorgeous. But I also love, Baba from Myrtle Beach time. That's the Baba that I think of when I talk to Baba. But older Baba for me is really hard to look at because, especially like the Louis, what's his name, Von Gastron film, Baba's in so much pain. And it's really, really hard just for me to see videos or see pictures of Baba in that time because his body was just so beat up.
Just like at Amrit's wedding at Dara.
Yeah. So much pain. It just hurts to look at, which, is part of his universal work, part of his love, but it's really difficult. Let's see, who else can I call on? All right. So the faces I'm looking at who haven't shared yet, I don't know who, I'm not going to call anybody whose camera's not on, but I got Ken, Marion, Tony, and Jeff. One of you guys got to pipe up. I see Marion's pretty, yay. Thank you, Marion. I know she's run workshops.
I'll do it.
Yeah,
I find it sometimes difficult to take such a huge span of thought and feelings and bring it down into a sharing. So I'll do my best. I'm very aware Baba's with me every moment. I don't always feel it. There's not always a feeling. I have the knowing that no one can ever take away from me. So I just tell Baba, oh, I know you're there, but I feel kind of alone today. I feel kind of like alone and lonely. And I just kind of report in, because I've learned from my transformational work that the first step of transformation is observation, not trying to be different, not trying to fill up the holes, but notice and report in to Baba. And it brings me close to Baba, even if I'm still in a quandary, about what to do about my day, where I'm feeling, I had some nice things going on today. And then, but between the nice things going on, a deep feeling of loneliness. And that can't be filled up by, it's like the more I'm in the present, in the now, the more I have to be in the now and not try to drag along something else that I did to try to keep me full all day. It just doesn't work now. It doesn't work. So I find for me, what I've learned is in the world of duality, there's two sides of the coin. Not in the unitive state. There's none of that. There's no duality. But in this duality that I've got to plow through, there is two sides of a coin. And my main personality was being kind of submissive, codependent and all. And then I transformed out of that. But the gateway for being in my whole self is to go through an aggressive side. And that's what most people like me are afraid of. And I'm not anymore because I've had all this training. I've done all this work. So sometimes I feel complaining and negative. And so I take it to Baba. So I have scheduled in my to-do list at least a few complaining sessions a day, because that brings me closer to Baba, because I'm giving it to him. I'm not just walking around being complaining. So I use the Ancient One photo for that. It's on my bedside table. So beautiful. I think because it too looks, what you said, kind of like the Christ and Jesus, but it's so beautiful. And that I look at that and then I release whatever is there that is negative. And I state my intention to Baba, that my intention is to release what's been triggered. Nobody else causes my whatever discomfort that I'm in. It's in me, but it gets triggered by others. So I have blame and cases and all that. So I tell Bob about that. And then I'm going to release it so that I may be filled with his light and love and life. And so I'm in self and other there. I'm not shifted yet into the I am state where there's no duality. So while I'm in duality, is working the system. And so then at other times I'm walking down the street, it's all busy here in New York, and I'll sometimes go to some mind chatter. I'll be saying Baba's name, but sometimes the mind chatter is just sort of pushing Baba's name away. Mm-hmm. And so I remember Baba with delight telling one of his disciples, say it real, real fast. I forget that story where he had one of his disciples say it really, really, really fast. So it kind of delights me. I'll be walking in a busy Manhattan street, and I'll be saying Baba, 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 Baba. And it makes me laugh and smile because it seems so kind of ridiculous, but it helps. And then I'll sing like to Ode to Joy, from Beethoven's Ninth. I'll just sing Baba's name, Baba, 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 Baba. And that really helps me be filled with the vibration rather than just being up in my mouth. And that Baba is faceless and doesn't have any image for me. And that is like such a sweet, by sweet, I don't mean fake sweet, that Baba lets me know, when I'm feeling lonely and after I've done something nice for myself, it doesn't carry over maybe into the next hour. After I leave that, I got to be in the moment. And I'm just having a hard time with that. And so I know it's my thinking process, and I'll hear at some point where Baba is over and over and over, just in that, not a sweetie sweet voice, but a very compassionate, steady voice. You belong to me. Mm-hmm. And it really helps me in detaching from where I have expectations with others, my children, grandchildren, all those. I have karmic relationships that I'm unwinding now. Baba's unwinding all that with me. And I'll hear that over and over. Just quiet, calm. You belong to me. And then I feel safe and protected. And it's no image. So no picture of him. It's pictureless. So it's just my closest companion. And I have that on my shelf here for many years. I've had this for decades. It's a picture of Baba that someone gave me many, many, many years ago. And I don't even know where that person is these days. But it's with that saying, love the one in the many, not the many in the one. I am the only friend who will never let you down. And when I get into expectations with others, and I don't mean just a nice give and take in a friendship, you work things out with people, but I mean where I have expectations. Hey, you give me what I want, whether you can do it or not. That's an expectation. So it always reminds me, my best friend is right there inside of me. So that's what I have to share at this point. Thank you.
Beautiful, Marian. Wow. Thank you so much. Yeah. I love that. I like the blah, 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 blah.
Ode to Joy. Remember Ode to Joy. It's perfect for Ode to Joy. Yes. Say Baba's name.
That's so good. Hey, so Josh, can I ask you to take over for 1 minute? I ordered an Uber Eats order like about an hour and a half ago, and it just got here. And so it's sitting out on my front porch. So I'm going to let Josh entertain you for about 2 minutes, and then I'll come
No
back.
worries.
Okay. Go get it.
Joy. Yeah, I love that, Marian. I think it was Francis Brabazon who was big about singing Baba stuff to Ode to Joy tune. Yeah, so there's a lot of history with that, but yeah, no, I think that's really good. It's yeah, I relate to sometimes like my brain is just going so quick that I need to that I can, if I choose to have relaxing piece of Baba, he's just there. If I only can remember to reach out and remember that name and try and cultivate that space. A lot of it's like a veggie garden, I'm trying to cultivate that Baba energy and that Baba remembrance in my life, just to bring that little bit of extra peace back home for me. Yeah.
Yes, and just a last comment. So once in a while, I'm on my busy street, not way downtown, but in my neighborhood, it's plenty busy. And that is, I'll hear, not from an ego place, but just the voice, the inner voice with Baba, is that I'm the only one in many blocks who is saying Baba's name. And it's not from an ego place. It's like, oh, so little insignificant me is sending out a vibration, and I'm serving in some way. And I feel very touched by that when I get that little reminder, that I'm in service, even if I'm struggling along with my issues, I'm in service. Yes.
So beautiful, Marian. Wow. Yeah, I love that. I often, when I go to a new place, like a restaurant or a store, I'll try to say Baba's name one time out loud, even if it's like under my breath, because I'm like, oh, what if I'm the only person who ever says Baba's name in this restaurant, right? At least like Baba's name has been said here at one time.
Yes, right.
Yeah. All right, Tony, Ken, Jeff, Baba is the awakener, and you're being awakened right now. You're being awakened to share. So Ken, okay, thank you, Ken.
Hi, Margi.
Hi.
I misread your email and I thought Laurent was going to be here.
Oh,
that's
no.
Okay. I'd like to see you too.
Oh yeah. What am I, chopped liver? No, Laurent, just so you guys all know, Peter and I are going to be busy with the Youth Sahavas for the next 2 Thursdays. So Laurent is going to take over. And so you'll have some reprieve from Peter and I being so terrible. Joking. But
no, I did like what you said. I had never had that thought about being an old married couple with Baba.
Yeah, I think he kind of just like, he's just there. He's a part of it. But so what's your current state with the beloved?
Well, I could tell you this little story, but I don't know if it'll be, but just how subtle, or how, being away, moving away from the center. It's really like when I feel like I'm getting deeper and deeper in the crud of leftover sanskaras and stuff. And then it's like Baba's like, no, you can do it wherever you are. You don't have to, you don't need a big charge, you have enough charges. So there's that sort of just being in the moment and finding, oh, there's always something else to surrender, You think you'd surrender all these big things maybe, and then, there's a lot of smaller things or things you you know, my experience is, as individuals, we can be so blind to things in ourselves that may be obvious to other people, sometimes for decades. and you know, I think Baba can leave us our delusions or illusions or attachments as long as we need them. You know, he's very patient. It's going to take a few lifetimes, probably. So, short version, we have a little backyard fenced in, and I put in a stake when we moved here a year or two ago and throw horseshoes at. And Baba started communicating to me through the horseshoes, which seems kind of, you know, fantastical on some level. But it's just the subtlety. Like if the horseshoe bounces and rolls away, you know, I get a message from that. Or if it lands a ringer, you know, it's like Baba's like, it's all perfect, you know, just see, it's all perfect. If you just let me throw it, it's perfect. Just let me do it. And, you know, then the mind or the heart or wants to say, yeah, but I've been waiting 50 years. Oh, what does Baba say about infinitely patient and infinite longing at the same time? So I guess it's just day to day and being surprised by the little graces. And I don't know if I have a favorite photo. I'm looking at the Don't Worry, Be Happy photo right now, and that's certainly one of them. I guess the handful of photos that have most deeply touched me at different points, you know, that I've had or meditated on and really felt come alive and feel so much love from and divinity. So, but Jeff has shown up. I'm sure he'll have something to say.
Well, Ken, can I ask you before we shift off of you?
Yes.
If you're comfortable sharing, what's something that you're currently surrendering? And if you're not, you totally don't have to.
Oh. Name something.
Name something.
You name it. Yeah, I'm surrendering. Trying to.
But are there particular themes right now that Baba?
Well, I just think, I guess expectations. You know, I've been thinking that about a little lately. You know, I've been rereading Lord Mayher. The local, I don't have all of it, but the local college has a copy that no one checks out except me. And now that I'm back in town, and so I'm up to volume 3 or 4 or 5, something like that. You know, and of course, in those early days, Bob is breaking his silence next year and next month and all these things, you know, and I think about how my generation in the 70s and 80s, it seems like some people would get excited, you know, Don't Worry, Be Happy song comes out or something, or somebody's, you know, and oh, everyone's going to know about Baba now, you know. And all of a sudden we wake up 50 years later and Baba has a different game going than we might have expected. So there's all those kinds of expectations on that level. And then the personal expectations, I suppose, you know. Probably thought I'd be enlightened by 40 anyway. So yeah, just anything that sort of comes up, you know, like I say, just, oh yeah, what did the other day, it was like, I realized, or didn't realize, I felt, wow, you know, I'm really not spiritual. But then it really felt good. It was like, oh, Bob was saying, oh, now you're getting it. You're just, you know, yes, you're God and you're a human being, you know, like every other human being. And that's okay.
Yeah. Sometimes we need to hear that. Sometimes it's like, it's too much pressure to be spiritual. we just have to be natural, and sometimes it's a mess. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Ken. I appreciate you.
Thank you for doing
You always
this.
share from the heart. All right, Rich. You're muted.
Well, I know Jeff and Tony gotta get on the hot seat here, but when Ken was talking, he reminded, suddenly flashed in my mind, I was watching a movie for the second time. I think it was last night I started it, and it's called Nice Guys. Russell Crowe, and he plays this sort of heavy duty, low life, detective brute kind of guy. And then Ryan Gosling is the other guy. And it is so funny. The whole movie is written tongue in cheek all the way through. It's really funny. And there's a young star who then was probably, I don't know, 15 and named from Australia named Orongi. Oh gosh. I can't remember her name, but she's real cute. He plays Ryan Gosling's daughter. Well, anyway, the point of this is Ryan Gosling is always getting beat up. And unfortunately, he's drunk in the movie, but he's always getting beat up. He is always getting the worst end of everything. And of course, no human could live through that, but he lives through it. And so near the end of the movie, he's lying on the floor after just fighting a guy for a gun in this one episode scene, and he has his hand outstretched towards the camera like that, just like that, reaching for the gun. And you're looking at his hand right here. And I couldn't believe it. I've seen this movie before. And if I hadn't been watching, I would have seen it. It said, "Don't worry, be happy." I couldn't believe it. I've never seen anything like that. Yeah, I could not believe it.
Oh my God. Wow. Oh wait, somehow you got muted, Rich.
Well, it was just, that movie is so funny. And in the middle of all this, I'm sure they just tattooed it in with a felt pen or something, but someone thought to give that photographic angle, he's just being beat up, all the time. And his character's got the worst of it, all the time. And here it is. Don't worry, be happy. He's reaching for a gun,
That's great. I love there's another movie that it's called LOL. It is a ultimate teen, Josh, do you know the movie? It's got Miley Cyrus in it.
Yes, I can't believe you know it. So many few people know it, but I love it because I used to watch it with Does it have Baba in it?
Okay, so yeah, you have to rewatch it. So go ahead, Josh. Sorry, finish what you were saying. You used to watch it with a friend. What?
After we'd watch horror movies, we'd be so scared that we'd have to put on something so disastrously silly that we could go to bed. And we'd put this one on with Miley Cyrus, and it was before she really took control of her own actions. I think she was in a dark place in the Hollywood spiral. But anyway, so she was just doing a bit of sort of some of the worst acting I can ever imagine. But that's what makes it so great. And it's hilarious. But so where's Baba in it? Because I haven't watched it since I was a teenager.
So Baba is very blatantly in this movie because there are these computer chat roulette websites that are not very appropriate. But anyway, they're on this. You probably remember this scene that they're going through different people on this chat roulette, and someone has the person on the other end has the camera shooting right here, and it's a "Don't Worry, Be Happy" Baba t-shirt right there on the screen. And so then they close the computer or something, I don't know what it was, and then they go to a party at this little teenage party, and the guy at the party is wearing the "Don't Worry, Be Happy" t-shirt, and they point it out. So I think it must have been William Files was on that movie or something like that, because Baba was so clearly pointed out. It wasn't just oh, it's casually in the background. It was very much made a point that it's noticed. So interesting. But I love that you've seen that, and you should rewatch it because Baba's front and center. All right. So Tony and Jeff, should I flip a coin? Who wants to go? Flip a coin? Oh, I don't have a coin. I will. Here we go. What can I do? Josh, pick a number between 1 and 5.
2.
Okay, that's Tony. Thank you.
How come I'm only 2? I'm enjoying all this. I've been making a point of not collecting all the thoughts that arise so that when I speak, I have things to talk about. So I'm just going to wing it. I love this Linot painting that I'm looking at right now. You can't quite see it, but my favorite Baba pictures, well, some of them are behind me. But really, sorry, it's because I'm second in line for God.
I was trying to compliment you on so that even though if you were feeling bad about me number 2, you're number 2, perhaps it's a good thing.
Harder. Yeah. So the images of Baba that I like the most are those that in my perception team with his divine humanity and with his love. And it might not always be the same when there's one at the moment, but to imagine it within myself as my innermost being, and sometimes mirror also in that place. Baba, I am at a point in my experience with Baba that I really want to withdraw all of my projections, all of my daddy projections or old girlfriend projections or disciplinarian or grandmother or whatever, all of them, to actually be in Baba's presence. And what I find is Baba responds lately, this is what I'm finding, Baba responding to my thoughts and to my feelings, but which will, I guess, and in ways only Baba could. So talking about aging, you know, when I was 12 or around 12, I looked around at the people around me and they're all different ages, and I just couldn't get the shift in mindset that happened at certain ages, especially those who considered themselves old or who I considered old. And I was like, don't they get it? It's just a thought. They're holding on to this thought. They're no different than they were when they were my age. And that held me in really good stead until maybe a few years ago, or even just this year, where I started seeing friends die left and right. Leave the Great Migration, Paul Simon calls it in his new album. And not only friends, but also famous people who had become a part of my life. So I kind of seemed like I was being forced to accept that consciousness now of old. And so then I wound up with all these health issues coming up. And some of them, well, I just want to say what happened today. I had a minor heart attack, they told me, and I got 2 stents put in back in 2018. And my blood pressure, everything had been just perfect since then. And this year it started getting really erratic. And so I check it every morning, both arms, you know, which old people do. And it just was erratic, no matter what I did, supplements I took, medications, whatever. It was just, and today, this morning, you know, and the other thing I want about Baba, I want to really tune in more to his whisperings in me, which is how I feel he communicates with me. But so I was taking I'm sitting in an armchair with 2 rests on each side, and my left arm and right have different blood pressures. So I'm doing back and forth, and it's become insane, doing like 15 blood pressures in the morning or so. So I did a whole set of them, and they were all over the place. And as I was sitting there, and I'm in Baba's presence at the moment, not frantic, but I remembered that every time I've been in a doctor's office and they take my blood pressure, very often the doctor or the nurse will hold my arm out like this. And I'd been sitting like this in my chair, like that. So I took them again with my arms out, still on the armrest, but out. And my blood pressure was normal 6 times in a row, 3 or 4 on both arms, you know. And it was like Baba but Baba had whispered. It was like a little, I don't know how to describe it, a little whisper. And it came in that image of the nurse holding my arm out. he's playing with my consciousness of getting caught up in this idea of physical decay, of dying. He tipped me off, which I one morning with homeopathic arsenicum, because I was like preoccupied with death, preoccupied with possibly being infirm, my breathing compromised, and so on. And I Googled, I said, for foreboding of death, homeopathic remedy, it was arsenicum. I knew that. And it's also good for my cough. I've had a bronchitis kind of cough. So I am my age to the extent of talking about my ailments, but it's lifted. And it's lifted to the extent that I'm willing to not really give a damn or be concerned about it, and make something of it, make a world out of what's just a passing experience. There was something else. Baba. That may come back to me. Anything else, Baba? Anything else? No, I guess I got caught up enough in that thing.
Should we tell Tony? This is the afterlife. You think you don't have to worry about dying anymore.
No, I even said to Bob, I have some past life awarenesses. So I'm like, not that I'm, it's not, it makes no sense to have. Ken Moore used to say we make the biggest mistake when we look at life in terms of a single lifetime, either the world affairs, but in our own life. And I have some awareness, one that is very clear because there's public record of it. So it was easy to, but I was saying to Bob, in the midst of all this, if you could just, you've whispered to me some of these little past life things, and it's been wonderful to hear them. But why not give me a future life glimpse? So this way, instead of having anticipation, I was like, I look at, oh, well, I'm going to be doing that. That sounds pretty cool. But
I can give you a future life glimpse, Tony. You're going to have infinite bliss, power, and knowledge, and you're going to be like zooming around like in absolute happiness.
I remember. Thank you for that. What the hell? But I wanted to do more than zoom around. There are things I want to do, which was, you gave me the good reminder. The other issue is doing what I came here to do, and I've studied a bit a thing that's called draconic astrology, and it was eye-opening about my purpose, the spiritual purpose. And I just read, I got another book on that. I have so many astrology books, and that is a really significant issue. Why am I here? What am I here for now? Have I done what I'm here to do? And not to be stressed about it, but to get a part of mine, the chart shifts so that all my writing planets are on my spiritual planet, and Venus is on the sun is on Venus. It's writing of love, basically. But also, I think Baba works with me too, and takes his time about it to wean me away from getting distressed about something and just experiencing it and taking it someplace. And so I had a thought about something that I'm writing, but that's getting into the weeds. So that was the other thing. And yeah, that was the other thing.
Thank you, Tony. I always appreciate your shares. And I was actually thinking that we need to have I don't know how, I might have to check with Angela on this one, but I wanted to do Baba and astrology on here because I love astrology so much, and it might only be Tony and I just having a back and forth conversation. But it made me think there's this story of this little kid on the bus leaving Marizot, and they turn to their mom and they say, "Is Auntie Mani young or is Auntie Mani old?" Because they really had no idea how old Mani was because she was so childlike in spirit. So you're on that trajectory, Tony. Well,
and the thing with astrology, someone, a Baba friend, sent me a message about having had a really horrible day and described a few things. And is there something in the chart, something in the sky going on to his astrology? Now, I don't have his chart, but I've had enough. I had training. We also studied in an interfaith seminary. And then I took 2 years of what they called spiritual counseling, which is just really listening. And I find that the best astrological advice is like, once you've described what the situation is about, directing the person to their own toolkit, to use Marion's phrase. How do you want to deal with this? Where do you want to position yourself in terms of this particular stress or the particular issue? How do you find your center? And to raise those questions, because knowing the astrology lets you know what's going on, kind of the tenor of the times, the weather report, including your own personality and everything. But I didn't mention a word about any of the planets. I just said it's the same if you know what they are, they're not. This is what you need to, look at. So yeah.
I love that approach. Thanks, Tony. I'm always happy to talk astrology with you. All right, we got Ralph. Ralph's iPhone, to be more specific.
As a story I heard on the visiting with relatives and friends on the 4th of July. And a cousin told a story about a good acquaintance of hers who's the mortician in a nearby town where they go to church. And they go to the same church with the mortician. And mortician related this story to my cousins, and they shared it with us on the 4th about this man who was acquainted with the mortician, and they were good friends, was diabetic. And this fellow got into a condition where it was necessary that his leg needed to be amputated. And that really upset him. And he called his friend, the mortician, whose name is Jack. And he said, Jack, they're going to cut my leg off. And Jack really, just talked sweetly to him and tried to console him. And he said, Jack, I just don't know what it is. I don't want to be all dismembered. Would you do me a favor? Be here when the procedure is performed, and I want to arrange it with the doctors that they should give my leg to you. And if you would please embalm it really well and keep it for me. And till the day I die, I'd like you to be sure that, and you will bury me, and bury me my leg with me, please. And Jack conceded to all these conditions, and sure enough, the surgery was done, and Jack embalmed that leg hard as a rock, so it would never deteriorate, and put it in a special place, wrapped it up, put it in a special place. Well, this fellow, it seems, would start missing his leg, and he'd have dreams, and at night he'd dream that his leg was hurting. I mean, he was experiencing pain in his leg, which had been removed, and he'd call Jack in the wee hour at any old time, night or day, that he would have these experiences. Say, Jack, man, my leg is killing me. Jack, would you please go and just turn my leg a little bit, just move it, so it'll have a new position. Or Jack had to leave the house and go down to the mortuary And he swears he did abide in every instance with this fellow's request, which went on for some years. I don't know if it's funny, Baba. And so finally the man passed away, and Jack, true to the arrangement, placed the leg in the casket, and the man and his leg were buried together. Jai Baba.
Jay Baba, thanks for the story. Wow, that's great. All right. I don't quite, I mean, that's a great story. It definitely is interesting. Maybe Josh has something to say about the story.
Yeah,
I do. I love that story. Sorry.
You heard about a man and his dog. This is a man and his leg.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the, if I may jump back in, that was the other thing that I had forgotten, or is someone else? No, about a man and his dog. Richie had shared a lot about the dog, that dog. We have a Cocker Spaniel, and we've had him since 2013. And I thought it was because we got him during Aries time that I wanted to name him Eric, but Eric seemed too harsh of a name for a dog. So we named him Erico. And of course, I realized years later that I was really naming him after my friend who passed in such a difficult way. But he's a wonderful Cocker Spaniel, so loving, and he's been with us all this time. But he's old, and at a certain, he's blind now with cataracts. He was going blind and going deaf. But the worst, that hadn't hit yet. He had a growth on his side that was like a tumor that was external, and it was sapping his life away. And we took him to the vet, and they offered to do surgery, but my wife Zeke was aware that, are you using anesthesia? And she knew he would die if he went under anesthesia. And they said, yeah, it's likely. So it's like a $3,000 operation, which will probably kill him. So we took him back home, and Zeke started nursing him, kind of like Florence Nightingale almost. She would bandage his wound. She'd take it every day, clean it. She'd put him in the tub and clean him there. Put frankincense essential oil on it. But nothing she was doing helped. He was going. He knew it, and we knew it. And she had worked once in an equine clinic, and the work involved, I think it was castrating donkeys, goats. Oh, he's laughing at castrating goats. Oh, that's not very spiritual.
Jeff has a dark sense of humor. Don't be fooled.
No. So and it was kind of an elastic thing that they would put around to make his maleness drop off.
Those are called Asheville oysters.
Okay.
Versus Rocky Mountain oysters.
My wife says I can say testicles. All right. So she had the idea to try put a rubber band around it. But whenever she tried to talk to the vet, they would say, bring him in. She'd text, and the vet, she wasn't interested. So it reached the point where Erico was suffering so much, you knew he was getting ready to die. And Zeke thought, well, what the hell? I'm just going to do it. And she was afraid that if he dies, she could go to jail for animal abuse, but it was worth trying. And so she wrapped the thing around this tumor, and it was such that she could pull it out and from the body and wrap the rubber band around there. And she added then the second day another rubber band and another. On the fourth day, he arose again from the dead. On the fourth day, it dropped off. And while we were out, when we came back, he was happy again. He was like, clearly he was back. And now he's basically totally blind and deaf, but he's got a good sense of smell. And between his nose and his head, he bumps into things and he figures out where everything is in the house. And it was like, it wasn't his time. And Baba responded, that's how I would say, to Zeke's love in caring for him and for his contribution to the house. On the other hand, we had a dog years ago that I wanted to name Baba. And kind of against a lot of strong opinions otherwise, we named him Baba. And it was wonderful because I'm calling Baba all the time, or even saying Baba shit on the floor. You know, it was like suddenly it was Baba in everything. And he's such a one, and he was a Kishond, and they become very attached to their families. So if we went out, he would make a mess in the house. He wanted to come in our bedroom, and I wanted to keep the door shut. And he would do something outside the door. And I finally said to Baba, what do you want me to do? We can't, you know, and Baba said, just let him in. He just wants to be with you. That's what I got internally. So I told Zeke, we opened the door, he came in, and we never had any more problems with that. But the time passed and he became ill and he was dying. And he knew it, and he reached the point, and it was a very gentle process, and he was dying. And he stopped eating, he stopped drinking, and he would just lay there, but he wouldn't die. And a friend of ours who was in the seminary, interfaith seminary with us, did healing work. And so we thought she could use the money. So we hired her, and we were interested to hear about Erico. And not Erico, Baba. And she said, he wants to go, but he needs your permission. He's waiting for someone. And when that person comes, he'll go. So I thought, okay, I went to him and I said, Erico, it's okay. You can go now. You can go. It's all right. We're okay with it. It'll be all right for you. You can go now. And still he didn't go. But I had joint custody of my daughter on a weekly basis with her mother who lived around the corner. And she was away that week. When she came back, I guess it was on Friday, I told her the situation. She went up to the dog, put her hands on this big barrel chest and said, Baba, go to sleep. Just go to sleep. Like, duh, I'm telling him go. Go where? You know, go to sleep, go to sleep. She went to bed. We were all asleep at about 3, 4 in the morning. He left. Mm-hmm. He was waiting for that okay from my daughter, from us, all of us. So Baba's, and Baba's presence very much in the whole thing. Because it was Baba. You know, it was Baba, but it was Baba.
Thanks, Tony. Really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I like naming your dog Baba. That's great. You know, I every time I see a dog or a kid, because you know, Baba is like such an easy thing to say. We gotta be grateful that like Baba isn't called Jesus this incarnation, right? Because if you go and you look at kids and you go, "Hi Jesus, hi Jesus," it doesn't go over. It might not go over so well. But Baba is so inconspicuous. So every time I see a dog or a child, I always go, "Hi Baba, hi Baba," just. Because people don't catch it. They don't realize, you know, that you're saying something to them. And so it's, yeah. But thanks for your story, Tony. Appreciate it. Well, Josh has his hand up, but he seemed to disappear. Maybe he'll pop back on. But Jeff, do you have an answer to the question, which is what's your current version of Baba like? What do you what do you
So that mean my kind of my current version of Baba?
Yeah, like what's your relationship with Baba
Okay.
now?
Well, it's kind of hard to describe. When I first got into Baba, this is, you know, back in the 60s, I felt him watching me wherever I went, lovingly watching me, not just kind of sitting there, you know, critically, but very loving. And I had to go through all of the stuff I had to go through, being a young person and all of that. But I always felt Baba watching me. And this went on for about 20 years. And then one day, Baba wasn't watching me anymore. And I felt Baba with me, but he was no longer watching me. And it wasn't like anything I had done. I mean, you know, the events of my life were just kind of what they had been. Wasn't like some traumatic thing, but he wasn't watching me. And even though I felt him with me, but it was more kind of outside looking at me. And so I struggled with that for a couple of years. What happened? Why can't I get that back and everything? And after a couple of years, I was in the log cabin cleaning it after, you know, being preoccupied with this. And Baba conveyed to me, all those years I watched you, and now it's time for you to watch me. And so I'm kind of like taken a little bit out of the picture. I'm kind of trying to watch Bob. And and around that same time, I mentioned this on Zoom, where Mani used to say, you have to see things through Baba's eyes. You know, and at the time, I didn't know I had an option. I'm looking at things through my eyes. Can I see things through Baba's eyes? And I cultivated that. And I got into a situation, I'm just bringing you up to kind of where I am now, is watching Baba loving others, not loving me. I didn't feel I needed him to look at me, to watch me. But so I began kind of watching Baba looking at others. I don't know if that's a kind of, I don't know how I can explain it, but I feel just as I used to feel Baba watching me, now inwardly I see Baba watching others. And lovingly watching others. I have like a front row seat watching Baba, looking at all the various people in the course of my day. And then, of course, in my last trip to India, and now it's Baba and Mara watching us. And I'm not interested, I'm just saying this is kind of where I'm at. I'm not interested in, I don't feel I have to be reassured anymore that, oh, does he like me? Am I doing all right? Or all of that. I'm trying to focus on him looking at us, looking at all of us with his love, his support, much more loving. When I'm able to see through Baba's eyes, I'm just saying this, everything that happens is much more loving than when I look at it thing through my eyes. When I look through my eyes, everything is good, bad, and ugly, and all the gradations in between. When I kind of am able to kind of look through Baba's eyes, it is all pure love. There's no gradations. It's all pure love. It's hard to imagine. But anyway, so I remember asking Marwan Jesawal, is some years back, I said, you know, Marwan, you would spend 1 month with Baba every year there, much of the time in Mandalay Hall. You're watching Baba doing correspondence, greeting people, interacting with the Mandalay. What thoughts and feelings went through, you know, what would go through you in watching this, witnessing this? And Marwan said, I had no thoughts or feelings. So what? You had no thoughts or feelings? He was just watching Baba in action. And he wasn't looking at, oh, I wonder how Baba thinks about me. That guy was not there. I shook my hands. I said, Marwan, this is impossible. You know, can we do this? You know, So it's kind of witnessing Baba. What can I say? Witnessing Baba through pure awareness rather than looking at Baba through the lens of ourself. I don't know. I mean, you asked me. I don't know how to explain.
That was very eloquently said.
Well, I don't know. I mean, but Marwan kind of helped me with that. I didn't know you could actually look at things, not look at things. I mean, Mani said that too. You can look at things through a lens that's not yourself. You think, oh, how can that be? Well, there's Mani talking about it, and there's Marwan actually telling me. He's watching, just like if you're really engrossed in something, you're watching somebody relating to somebody else, and you get really into that. You're looking away from yourself. You're not looking through yourself. You're looking, I guess, away from yourself. Because when I would be with Kitty, I'd go in to see Kitty, and inside of 45 seconds, we'd be talking about me. Thinking, so I go in there and say, I got to find out how Kitty's doing. I'd go in there and start talking about how you doing to Kitty, how are things and everything. And before you know it, we're talking about me. Because her looking away from herself is more powerful than my looking away from myself. So I was trying to fight a current that was much stronger going toward me than my current going toward her. I tried it for 3 times and I gave up. So these people were kind of looking away from themselves. Kitty was over into me. She wasn't Kitty. It wasn't Kitty and me. It was just me. And I was the center of attention. So anyway, I don't know if that makes any sense. But that's kind of what I do. I have these inner projects that Baba has me doing, and that's what I've been doing for the last number of years.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. Does that make any sense? I don't know. What is it?
Yes, it made a lot of sense. Don't look at Tony. Don't listen to Tony. No, it made a lot of sense.
I mean, Tony's there with his dog. I don't know. I mean, and Ken has got that. I mean, Ralph has got that dead limb, floating around. No, I don't know. Like to say, these are kind of intangible things to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, meaning I haven't got the vocabulary for it.
Oh, I think you said it. You said it perfectly. I can relate a lot to what you said about how like your relationship with Baba used to be more Baba loving you. And
yeah.
All of a sudden it switched to you loving Baba. Or, I had this experience about maybe 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago, but I was in yoga and I was feeling Baba's love. I mean, I've been so blessed, but I've never really had that thing of not feeling Baba. I know like a lot of people struggle with that, but I want to knock on wood there, but I just haven't had that where Baba's not there. It's like either I tune into him or I don't, right? It's kind of my choice. But I was laying there in Shavasana at the end, which is like, you got 5 minutes of just quietude. And I was really just feeling Baba. And I was just like getting bigger and bigger and bigger in this room, like, taking over this area and just like feeling this oneness with Baba. But then all of a sudden I looked and my body, and it was this like inner experience that, was kind of, not metaphysical, I don't know what the word is, mystical, I guess. And all of a sudden I get really small, like a tiny little person. And my body is like laying there and I'm looking at this like expanded, huge version of myself. And I kind of crawl over to the edge of my body and I look down and it's a hollow hole and I see the entire universe, the whole thing. like everything in existence and universes. And I'm peering over, and it was like in that moment, Baba conveyed to me that everything I need and everything I'm looking for is really inside of me. And there's no reason to go looking for Baba, to go creating that. And it really switched my whole relationship with Baba, that, you know, I used to go to old man Jeff for advice about I'm just kidding, about really my advice for my relationship with Baba, but something switched in that. Not to say that I don't learn from others, but that I don't know, it's switched, that it's all inside of me, and it's just on Baba to uncover it slowly, 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 right? It's all sitting there. And it really reminded me of that when you were talking about it, Jeff, because it's like, yeah, at some point you stop looking outside for Baba because he's there. And then he's also, the only thing you have to look outside of is for others and to connect with the Baba that's in others, right? Everything's already inside of you, but yeah.
Yeah. I know my early years, I realized at a certain point in Mayor Colony, this was back in the 70s, that I was loving Baba for my sake. And I realized, and it came to me in the middle of the night, I should love Baba for his sake, and immediately, Eric used to say, warm tears are for the self, cool tears are for the beloved. Mm-hmm. And cool tears started coming down from my eyes, cool tears, that I was determined to love him for his sake and not love him for my sake. I mean, it's typical young person, Baba's going to help me with my, life, and he's going to do this and that. And, it was very kind of, he's going to even help me spiritually, but it was all kind of a bit selfish. I mean, I didn't beat myself up about it, but at that, I saw a kind of turning point where, God, I'm not really, am I really interested in him and how he's doing, rather than how him being interested in how I'm doing. So it kind of made a turn there. Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
All right, we've got Rich.
Well, Jeff, when Jeff was talking, I don't know if it's not the same, I don't think, but I've had this experience more recently in the last year or two of trying to, I'll say, imagine, how does this person see his life or her life? And because of what Bob has awakened us to about sanskaras and the subtle body and the mental body, then suddenly I see myself with my perspective on, well, this must be the world. But then I think, now, wait a minute, what Margi sees or Tony sees, or they have their own perspective. But as a Baba lover, I'm going like, so basically in this vast creation that we live in, we have our own experience in the gross world, and we interact with people. Like I've met Jeff, okay, met Tony a long time ago, and we think, oh, that's Tony or that's Jeff. And then our interaction, we respond to whomever they are, or whoever, whatever their thoughts and energies are. But in the meantime, Baba is reality for all of us, for each of us. He's just reality. And so I get this image of like this floating head, and this floating head sees the world. So I'm looking at someone, I'm thinking of someone that I know, say, and I'm going, oh, so they see the world in that space. They're in that floating head space there. And then I'm thinking, yeah, but I'm looking at them with my floating head. And so whatever I see must not be exactly real either. That's what I was getting from you, Jeff.
One thing that I've found getting older is I can enjoy other people enjoying themselves. I don't have to be in the mix. I can be in a restaurant and see some people over there in an animated conversation, and I can enjoy that. It's a little bit like that. I can enjoy other people enjoying life. You know, I don't have to be one of the major characters. I don't have to have my lines. So it's and it's kind of nice. It's a, you know, I think when I was younger, I was trying to kind of get in being a part of the whole thing.
Yeah. Something that maybe somebody else has had this experience, but growing up in the Baba world as a kid, one of the first questions, which I wish people wouldn't do it, but the first questions people ask you is, who do you think you were last life? Or like, oh, I bet you were this, or they tell you, oh, I think you were this person last life. And I've always felt that any life being lived at any time or any point, you can actually tune into. And I've had this experience of, I've never cared who I was in my past life, because when I think about, Baba and Manzli Neem, there's an energy that you can tune into of that time and actually live that time and have that feeling. Or, you can tune into Baba in Myrtle Beach and experience that,
Yep.
right? And so I could feel like I've been everybody. I could feel like I was Baba in my past life. Or even now, sometimes I have that same experience of, oh, Jeff's in Myrtle Beach right now, sitting in the gateway, and I can tune into Jeff there. Like I'm not taking over Jeff's body. I don't want that. But
yeah, you don't, but it's mine.
Yeah.
Spit it out.
But for us to think that we're separate from any moment,
Yeah.
or you can actually tune into, I find myself, I sometimes have to, I don't know if it's like an astral body, whatever, but I have to catch myself from being in India or being in Myrtle Beach or somewhere else, because it all exists together.
Yeah, no, that's right. It's all in the timeless present. You can even be with the Buddha back in those times, or you could be with Tony, fiddling around and with his dog, No, what I mean is that it's all, and even time, like past, future is actually happening right now too, if you can tune into that station, on your little shortwave.
Yeah.
Well, what makes it possible is we know the avatar is the only thing that's real. The only thing that's real. If you didn't have that reference point, like you wouldn't want to be messing with the astral world if you didn't know about Baba. You'd get lost,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Something I often do is I channel my old lady, which I guess is probably, for most of you guys, probably is not a thing, but when you're 25 and you're going through relationship issues or whatever, I'm like, oh, I wonder what 85-year-old Margi would think about this. And I actually can feel her, even though that hasn't happened yet, but I can feel the energy of another version of me that doesn't care about a current relationship, right? It's like, it's cool. And
in fact,
go ahead,
you say it hasn't happened yet, but it is. It already, you could kind of go crazy on this stuff, and just to stay in the present and be loving is fine enough, but still, it is possible.
Yeah.
I was just telling a friend a couple of days ago that on a certain level, and I got this from Course in Miracles, but it's the same thing you're saying here. It is as if this whole thing, what we're going through now and what's going to happen, is all in the past. It's already happened, but we're just sort of remembering it and living it at this moment. But we have already attained the goal. We have already become one with Baba. In reality, there was no real time between the who am I and I am God. So it helps me anyway to keep a little bit.
Yes, I'm gonna jump in here, because in the unitive state, there is no creation. So there you go.
Yeah.
Play the game and let it go. Yes.
I like that, this quote of Baba's that's been floating around. I tell you, don't worry, be happy. Why? Because I know the ending, and the ending is beautiful.
Hmm.
You know, and so, you know, however we go through this stuff, if we have a pleasant dream and then wake up, that's fine. Or we have a nightmare and we wake up, you know, when we wake up, it's like, you got to go back and, you know, go through all your lifetimes and everything. No, you just, where you are is beautiful. You know, no. You know, here's an interesting thing. I once asked Darwin, you know, how he came back down on predestination and free will. And he asked me, what do you think? So I gave various terms, but the one that he signed off on is when I said spontaneous predestination. And that one he liked. Now, what does that mean? It means that love was here before creation. Love was before creation. We all have that love. And then the creation is like this black and white film. And like it's predestined that we're all here at the Zoom session. Now, it could be just a black and white kind of boring thing, or with love, we have the free will to put color into this black and white film. In other words, we're not passive victims. We can put love into this scene and beautify it, you know, rather than, oh God, this is all, you know what I mean? So we're, so this creation has all happened, but who cares whether it's already happened? We can still just be putting our love into it, in each scene by scene. I don't know if that, so that's why Darwin, that's the one he signed off on.
Yeah. I like that one.
You know,
Yeah.
so it can be this could be a boring scene, or it could have some aliveness and protein, a little carbonation. Yeah.
Well, I think when it comes to sanskaras, karma, reincarnation, and that I remember I've heard this from a couple of different people that about astrology, and I heard the quote, well, it doesn't matter anymore because once you have Baba, it just doesn't matter. But to me, Hindu astrology is a description of your sanskaras, how you channel your energy out into the manifestation. And so it's just a description. But what's really clear about that is that, yes, it's true. We are like breakaways, you know, like the old movie with the guy riding his 10-speed, you know, we're breakaways, you know, we're running ahead of all that stuff because of Baba. It's his grace. He's pulling us ahead of all that stuff. We're not trapped by our sanskaric, you know, destiny, you know, and so, but it's Baba's grace. And each of us is aware because of Baba, because that's what he came for. I've come not to teach, but to awaken. And that's what he does. So we're ahead of that. But he says grace. We're really fortunate. I mean, I feel very fortunate. I actually have gone to this thing of looking at Baba's photo and saying, Baba, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Someone asked Adi K if Baba changes your destiny. And his answer was, he doesn't change your destiny, but he such a degree that it becomes unrecognizable.
Yeah. You could manipulate and change it to such an extent that it becomes unrecognizable. I used to say that.
Speaking about impressions, I just love Peter Nordine when he goes into Padre. It's like, wow, I think I'm right there with Padre. You know,
I got to go close the front gate. See all of you. Right. Thank you, Margi, for bringing this good topic. Yeah. Jai Baba.
Up to you, Jeff. Jai Baba.
Thanks, Margi. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll close it up. And then, so Peter and I will see you guys in 2 weeks. So,
have fun.
Have fun, yes.
we'll be bringing all the fun to the Youth Sahavas.